You set an intention. You promise yourself, this time will be different. You'll be more patient, more disciplined, more consistent. You'll wake up for Fajr. You'll control your temper. You'll stop wasting time. And for a moment, you mean it. You really do. But then the same patterns return. You delay what you know you should do. You react when you meant to stay calm. You scroll when you meant to be productive. You fall back into habits you swore you'd quit. And afterward, there's this quiet confusion. Why did I do that again? I knew better. So why didn't I do better? You think the problem is willpower, that you're just weak, that you lack discipline, that if you just tried harder, forced yourself more, pushed through the resistance, you'd finally change. But it's not working. You keep failing, and you're starting to believe maybe you're just broken. Maybe you're just not cut out for this. Maybe change isn't possible for you. But that's not the problem. The problem is there's a voice in your head that sounds exactly like you. It uses your logic. It knows your weaknesses. It speaks in your tone. And it's not serving you. It's your nuffs, your ego, your lower self, your impulse. And it's sabotaging every good intention you have. Not dramatically, not obviously, quietly. In 1,000 small choices you make every day without even realizing you're being led. Just 5 more minutes. You deserve a break. They disrespected you first. You'll start tomorrow. All of it sounds reasonable, logical, like your thoughts. But it's not you making those decisions. It's your nuffs. And you're obeying it without even knowing it's not you. This isn't about willpower. This is about awareness. Because you can't control what you can't recognize. And right now, you don't know when your nuffs is speaking. Learn to spot it and everything changes. You think you're making conscious choices, but there's a voice narrating your decisions constantly. I deserve this. I'll start tomorrow. They disrespected me first. Just this once won't matter. It sounds like you. It uses your logic, your reasoning, your voice, but it's not you. It's your nuffs. In Islam, the nuffs is your ego, your lower self, your impulse. It's the part of you that wants what it wants when it wants it. Like a child that doesn't understand delayed gratification, doesn't care about consequences, just wants comfort, pleasure, immediate relief. And when left unchecked, it runs your life. But here's the thing, the nuffs isn't evil. It's not some demon inside you. It's just undisciplined, untrained. And because it's part of you, it sounds like you. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't say, I'm your ego speaking. It disguises itself as your thoughts, your logic, your needs. That's why it's so effective. You obey it thinking you're making a conscious choice, but you're not. You're being led. You're lying in bed, alarm goes off for Fajr, and immediately the voice, you're so tired, you need rest. 5 more minutes won't hurt. Allah is merciful, you can make it up later. Sounds reasonable, right? Sounds like you thinking logically about your needs, but it's not, it's your nafs. And you obey it, you hit snooze, you miss Fajr, and later you feel guilty. But in that moment, you genuinely thought you were making a reasonable decision. Or you're about to do something productive, start that project, clean the house, exercise, and the voice, you're not in the right mindset. You'll do it better tomorrow. Just relax for now. You've had a hard day. Again, sounds logical, sounds like self-care, but it's your nerves avoiding discomfort, choosing ease over effort, and you believe it's you because it's using your voice. Or someone criticizes you, and instantly the voice, how dare they? They don't know what you've been through. You need to correct them. You need to defend yourself. You can't let this slide. Sounds like self-respect, right? Sounds like standing up for yourself. But it's your nafs protecting your ego. And you react. You say things you regret. Because in that moment, your nafs convinced you that reacting was the right thing to do. This is how it operates. It doesn't tell you to do obviously wrong things. It frames everything as reasonable, justified, necessary. And because it sounds like you, you don't question it. You just obey. The voice in your head that justifies, defends, and rationalizes, that's not you, that's your nuffs. The nuffs isn't stupid. It's actually very intelligent. It doesn't tell you to do obviously wrong things. It's smarter than that. It uses your intelligence, your knowledge, even your faith to justify what it wants. It sounds logical, reasonable, sometimes even spiritual, and that's what makes it so dangerous. You're scrolling when you should be working. Your nuffs doesn't say waste time. It says you need a mental break. You've been working hard, just 5 minutes to recharge. Sounds healthy, right? Self-care. Except 5 minutes becomes an hour. And you're not recharged, you're more drained, but your nuffs framed it as wisdom. So you obeyed. You're about to pray. Your nuffs doesn't say skip prayer. It says you're not in the right state of mind. You're too distracted. Prayer requires focus. Maybe wait until you can be more present. Sounds spiritual. Sounds like you care about the quality of your worship. But it's a trap, because that right state of mind never comes, and you delay and delay until the prayer time passes. You snap at your spouse. Your nuffs doesn't say be cruel. It says they need to hear this. You're just being honest. Communication is important. If you don't say it now, resentment will build. Sounds like healthy relationship advice, but it's not. It's your nuffs justifying cruelty as honesty, aggression as communication. And you believe it because it sounds smart. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, called the struggle with the nafs the greater jihad, not a physical battle, the internal one. He said it's greater than fighting enemies on a battlefield. Why? Because it's constant, it's invisible, and it uses your own mind against you. The smarter you are, the better your nafs is at justifying itself. Because it has more tools to work with, more knowledge to twist, more logic to hijack. It doesn't argue against you. It works with your intelligence. It starts with what it wants: comfort, ego protection, immediate gratification, then works backwards to find a logical justification, and you believe it because it sounds like you thinking clearly. You know you should apologize, but your nafs says, why should you go first? They were wrong too. If you apologize now, you're admitting defeat. Stand your ground. Sounds like self-respect, but it's ego. Your nafs protecting itself from the vulnerability of admitting fault. You see someone succeed. Your nafs whispers, they got lucky. They had connections. It's not really merit. You think you're just being realistic, observant, but it's envy. Your nafs can't handle someone else winning, so it diminishes their success to protect your ego. You're about to give charity. Your nafs says, you worked hard for this money. You have bills. You need to be responsible. Give when you're more secure. Sounds like financial wisdom, but it's greed. Your nafs holding tight to what it has, and it sounds so reasonable you don't even question it. This is the trap. Your nafs doesn't sound like a villain. It sounds like you, thinking logically, making wise decisions, and you obey it over and over without ever realizing you're being led. Your nafs doesn't argue against you. It uses your own logic to convince you. The nafs doesn't win in dramatic moments. It doesn't need you to commit major sins. It wins in small, invisible choices. Tiny moments where you obey without noticing. And each small obedience strengthens it, makes it louder, more convincing, more automatic. You were going to wake up for Fajr. Your nafs whispers, 5 more minutes. You obey. You were going to stay calm during that conversation. Your nafs says, correct them now. You obey. You were going to start that project today. Your nafs says, tomorrow you'll be more motivated. You obey. None of these feel like major failures. They're small, insignificant. You barely notice them. But the nafs thrives in the ordinary. It doesn't need big sins. It just needs small obedience. 1,000 times a day, and before you know it, your entire life is run by impulse disguised as reason. You see someone succeed. Your nafs whispers, they don't deserve that. You work harder. You think it's just an observation, but it's envy. And you don't even recognize it as your nuffs because it sounds like you just being honest. You're about to apologize. Your nuffs says, why should you go first? You weren't the only one wrong. Sounds like fairness, but it's ego protecting itself from vulnerability. And you listen. The apology never happens. The relationship stays broken because your nuffs convinced you that being right matters more than being connected. You're about to be generous, give charity, help someone. Your nuffs says, what if you need that later? You've worked hard. You deserve to keep this. Sounds like responsibility, financial wisdom, but it's greed. Your nuffs hoarding. And it frames it so well, you actually feel virtuous for not giving. You're about to be productive. Your nuff says you're not inspired right now. Wait until you feel motivated. You'll do better work then. Sounds like self-awareness, but it's avoidance. Your nuff's running from discomfort, and that right time never comes because your nuffs will always find a reason to delay. Here's what's terrifying. You can go through an entire day, an entire life, obeying your nuffs in 1,000 small moments and never once realize it's not you making those choices. You think you're reasoning, deciding, choosing, but you're just following impulse dressed up as logic. Every delay, every justification, every rationalization, every defensive reaction, every moment of avoidance, your nuffs, and you didn't even see it because it sounds like you, uses your voice, your intelligence, your values, and turns them all against your own goals. Your nuffs doesn't need big sins. It just needs small obedience 1,000 times a day. Islamic scholars identified stages of the nuffs, 4 main states. And where you are on this spectrum determines how much control you actually have over your life. Most people never move past stage 1. They spend their entire lives stuck there, obeying their nuffs, feeling bad about it, then obeying again. Stage 1, the commanding nuffs. Nafsul ammara. This is where most people live. The nafs commands, you obey. Impulse leads, awareness is minimal. You want something, you take it. You feel anger, you react. You feel discomfort, you avoid. There's no pause between impulse and action. The nafs says do this and you do it. Sometimes you feel guilty afterward, but in the moment itself, you're not even aware you had a choice. You hit snooze, you scroll endlessly, you snap at people, you procrastinate, you indulge, and afterward you think, why did I do that? But you do it again tomorrow because you're in stage 1. The nafs commands, you obey. Repeat, stage 2. The reproaching nafs, al-lawama. This is where awareness starts. You begin to feel the gap between what you did and what you wanted to do. Regret shows up. Not just guilt, actual reflection. I could have handled that better. I didn't need to react that way. Why do I keep doing this? This stage is uncomfortable because now you see the problem, but you don't yet have the tools to stop it consistently. You catch yourself after the fact, not during. You recognize your nafs after you already obeyed it. And that awareness can feel like failure, but it's not. It's progress. You can't fix what you can't see, and you're starting to see. Most people get stuck between stage 1 and 2. They oscillate. Obey their nafs, feel bad, obey again, feel bad again. They never move forward because they don't understand what's actually happening. They think the problem is willpower, so they beat themselves up, try harder, fail again, and the cycle continues. Stage 3, the inspired nafs. Here's where real change happens. You start catching your nafs while it's speaking, not after, during. You feel the impulse to react and you pause. You hear the justification and you recognize it as your nafs. You notice the urge and you don't automatically obey. This doesn't mean you never fail. It means you're aware. You see the choice. Sometimes you choose wisely, sometimes you don't. But you're no longer blind. Your nuffs is losing its invisibility. And the moment it's seen, it weakens. Stage 4, the tranquil nuffs. This is surrender, not in a defeated way, in a peaceful way. Your nuffs is no longer running the show, awareness is. You still feel impulses, but they don't control you. You can observe them without obeying them. You're content, trusting, at peace, not because life is easy, but because you're no longer at war with yourself internally. Most people never reach stage 4. That's fine. It's not about perfection, it's about movement. The question isn't, have I mastered my nuffs? The question is, am I more aware today than I was yesterday? And here's the truth. You can't skip stages. You can't go from stage 1 to stage 4 overnight. You have to learn to recognize your nuffs. That's stage 2. And most people never get there because they don't know what to listen for. They don't know that the voice in their head isn't always them. You can't defeat your nuffs, but you can graduate from obeying it blindly to recognizing it clearly. Here's the secret. The nuffs loses power the moment you recognize it. It thrives in darkness, operating below your conscious awareness, disguising itself as you. But the second you spot it, that's my nuffs talking, it weakens. Not because you fought it, because you saw it. Ibn Arabi, a great Islamic scholar, taught that awareness is light. And light weakens the nuffs. You don't defeat it through force, you illuminate it. When you see it clearly, it can't deceive you anymore, because its power was never in its strength. Its power was in its invisibility. So how do you spot it? You ask questions. In moments of choice, before you act, you pause and ask, whose voice is this? Mine or my nuffs? Am I choosing this consciously or reacting impulsively? If I were advising someone else in this situation, would I tell them to do this? Is this serving who I want to be or just what feels good right now? These questions create space, a gap between impulse and action. And in that gap, awareness can return. You're about to send an angry text. Pause. Is this me or my nuffs? The urge to defend yourself, to attack, to correct them, that's almost always nuffs. Your ego protecting itself. If you recognize it as nuffs, you can choose not to send it. Not because you suppressed the anger, but because you saw it for what it was and it lost its authority. You're delaying something important. Pause. Is this wisdom or my nuffs avoiding discomfort? Sometimes rest is wise, but often it's avoidance. Your nuffs running from effort. If you spot it, you can choose differently, not through force, through clarity. You're justifying something you know is questionable. Pause. Is this logic or my nuffs rationalizing? When you start listing reasons why something's okay, that's usually your nuffs. Building a case, defending an impulse, if you see it, the justification collapses because it was never sound logic, it was your nuffs talking. Here's what happens when you practice this consistently. You start catching your nuffs earlier. At first you notice it after you've already obeyed. Then you notice it during the action. Then you notice it before you act. And eventually you notice it the moment it speaks. And when you notice it that quickly, it has no time to build its case. No time to hijack your logic. You just see it, and seeing it is enough. The nuffs is like a child throwing a tantrum. If you react to it, it escalates. If you suppress it, it finds another way out. But if you just observe it, I see you're upset. I'm not obeying this time. It eventually quiets down. Because tantrums only work when they get attention. Your nuffs doesn't want to be seen. It wants to operate in the background, invisible, automatic. The moment you shine light on it, it loses power. Not forever. It will come back, but each time you recognize it, it gets a little weaker, a little less convincing, a little easier to resist. The nuffs can't survive being seen. Spot it and it loses power instantly. Here's what most people get wrong. They think the goal is to destroy the nuffs, to kill it, eliminate it, but you can't. As long as you're alive, your nuffs exists. It's part of being human. The goal isn't elimination, it's discipline. Think of your nuffs like a powerful horse. Untrained, it throws you wherever it wants to go. It's wild, unpredictable, dangerous. But trained, it carries you where you need to go. The same strength that was working against you now works for you. The nuffs doesn't disappear. It just learns to follow instead of lead. Ibn Arabi taught that hating your nuffs only gives it another disguise. You start hating yourself, feeling ashamed, despairing, and that becomes another form of ego, spiritual pride disguised as humility. I'm so terrible, I'm the worst. That's still your nuffs, just wearing a different mask. The nuffs isn't destroyed through hostility, it's trained through awareness and consistency. You don't fight it with force, you guide it with clarity. When you notice your nuffs speaking, you don't have to obey it. You also don't have to attack it. You just notice. That's my nuffs. I see you. I'm not obeying this time. Not with anger, not with self-hatred, just with calm recognition. Like a parent correcting a child. Firm, but not cruel. Clear, but not harsh. You feel anger rising. Instead of suppressing it, which builds pressure, or exploding, which feeds the nuffs, you pause. My nuffs wants me to react right now. I'm going to wait until I'm calm. That pause, small as it seems, is discipline, not through force, through awareness. You feel the urge to scroll endlessly. Instead of fighting the urge, which makes it stronger, or giving in immediately, which trains the nuffs to always get what it wants, you delay. I'm going to wait 5 minutes. If I still want to scroll after that, I can. Often the urge passes. Because it was never that strong. It was just immediate. And immediacy is the nuffs's weapon. The nuffs learns through repetition, just like any habit. Every time you recognize it and don't obey, you're training it, teaching it that impulse doesn't equal action. That urges don't have to be followed. That you, your conscious awareness, are in charge, not it. And every time you obey without noticing, you're training it the opposite way. Teaching it that it's in control, that its voice is your voice, that impulse equals action, and it gets stronger, louder, more automatic. It's not about perfection. You'll fail. You'll obey your nuffs sometimes, even when you see it clearly. That's fine. What matters is consistency. Are you recognizing it more often than you used to? Are you pausing more than you used to? Are you choosing consciously more than you used to? That's growth, not perfection, growth. Don't fight your nuffs. Train it through awareness, not force. You blame circumstances. If my job was better, I'd be patient. If my spouse was different, I'd be calm. If I had more money, I'd be content. If my kids listened, I'd be kind. You're waiting for the world to change so you can be who you want to be. But the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, the greater jihad, the greater struggle is with the nafs. Not with the world, not with other people, not with your circumstances, with your own self, your own impulses, your own ego. That's the real battle. You can change your entire life, new job, new city, new relationships, new circumstances, and still carry the same patterns, still react the same way, still fall into the same traps, because the problem isn't external, it's your nafs. And your nafs travels with you wherever you go. You think if only they would stop provoking me, I wouldn't get angry. But that's your nafs blaming externals, because if it's their fault, you don't have to change. You can stay exactly as you are and just wait for them to be different. You think if only I had better circumstances, I'd be more disciplined. But that's your nafs convincing you the problem is out there, so you never have to look in here and you stay stuck. Wait waiting for perfect conditions that will never come. Allah says in the Quran, indeed, Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. The change starts inside, not with your circumstances, with your awareness of your nuffs, with your recognition of the voice that's been leading you away from who you want to be. You can't control what happens to you, but you can recognize when your nuffs is reacting and choose not to obey. Someone disrespects you, you can't control that, but you can recognize your nuffs screaming, defend yourself, attack back, don't let this slide, and choose silence instead. Not because you're weak, because you're aware. Your project fails, you can't control that, but you can recognize your nuffs spiraling into despair, blaming everyone or quitting entirely, and choose to keep going anyway. Not because you're ignoring reality, because you're not letting your nuffs interpret reality for you. You don't get what you wanted, you can't control that. But you can recognize your nuffs demanding, this isn't fair, you deserved better, Allah isn't listening, and choose gratitude anyway, trust anyway, surrender anyway. Not because you're pretending, because you're choosing trust over impulse. This is the real struggle. Not out there, in here. Not with the world, with the voice in your head that keeps convincing you the problem is external, that you're fine, that if circumstances just changed, everything would be okay. But it won't, because you're taking your nuffs with you everywhere you go. And until you learn to recognize it, it will keep sabotaging you, no matter how perfect your circumstances become. The real battle isn't out there. It's the voice in your head you keep obeying without questioning. You set intentions, you mean them, but the same patterns return. You delay what you know you should do. You react when you meant to stay calm. You fall back into habits you swore you'd quit. And you think you're weak, that you lack discipline, that you'll never change. But you're not weak. The problem isn't willpower. The problem is you don't recognize your nuffs. That voice in your head that sounds like you but isn't serving you. The voice that justifies every delay, rationalizes every reaction, defends every impulse. The voice that hijacks your intelligence and uses it against your own goals. Just 5 more minutes. You deserve this. They disrespected you first. You'll start tomorrow. This is justified. All of it sounds reasonable, logical, like your thoughts. But it's not you making those decisions. It's your nuffs. And you've been obeying it without realizing it's not you. Your nuffs uses your logic against you. It doesn't argue against what you believe. It starts with what it wants, then works backwards to find justification. And because it sounds like you, you don't question it. You just obey. In 1,000 small choices every day, each one insignificant, but together they run your life. Most people spend their entire lives in stage 1, the commanding nuffs. Impulse speaks, they obey. Feel bad, obey again. They never move forward because they don't know they're stuck. They think the voice is them, so they never question it, never pause, never create space between impulse and action. But the nuffs loses power the moment you recognize it. It thrives in darkness, in invisibility. But the second you see it, that's my nuffs talking, it weakens, not because you fought it, because you illuminated it. And light is what the nuffs can't survive. So you learn to spot it. You ask questions. Whose voice is this? Mine or my nuffs? Am I choosing this or reacting? Is this serving who I want to be or just what feels good now? That pause, that moment of awareness is where your power lives. Not in fighting the nuffs with force, but in seeing it with clarity. And you don't destroy it. You can't. As long as you're alive, it exists. You train it. Through consistency, through awareness, through recognizing it and choosing not to obey, over and over, until the nuffs learns that impulse doesn't equal action, that it's not in charge, that you are. The real struggle isn't out there. It's not your circumstances. It's not other people. It's the voice in your head convincing you the problem is external, so you never have to look internal, and you stay stuck, waiting for the world to change, when what needs to change is your awareness of what's leading you. Ya Allah, I've been blind to my own nuffs. I thought those justifications were my thoughts. I thought those reactions were my choices. I thought that voice was me, but it wasn't. My nuffs has been leading me and I didn't even see it. Open my eyes. Help me recognize when my nuffs is speaking. Give me the awareness to spot it before I obey it. And give me the discipline to pause, to not react, to choose you over my impulse. I can't control what I can't see. So let me see it clearly. Every time it speaks, every time it justifies, every time it leads me away from you, strip away the disguise. Show me the difference between my conscious choice and my nuffs commanding. And when I recognize it, give me the strength not to obey, not through force, through awareness, through light. Because the nuffs can't survive being seen. So let me see it, and let that seeing be enough to weaken its grip. Train my nuffs the way you train your servants, with patience, with consistency, with mercy, not through self-hatred, through self-awareness. Ameen. Today, practice this. Before you react, before you justify, before you decide, pause, one breath, and ask yourself, is this me or my nuffs? That one question asked consistently will change everything, because your nuffs can't survive being seen. And the moment you see it, you're no longer completely under its command. You're not weak, you're just obeying a voice you thought was you. Learn to tell the difference and everything changes.